My name is Tripp. I grew up at the end of South Point Road when it was the end of South Point Road before it got extended a little bit in Diamond Springs. Goes down the hill a little bit. I wasn't sure I wanted to say anything today because there's been a lot of really beautiful, eloquent voices, especially this last one, which I'm still quite moved by. I think you're faced with a really historical moment here. And it might not just be El Dorado County, perhaps it's our whole country. I think when I sit in this meeting today and I listen, I go, well, what if we were talking about 100 years from now? What if we weren't talking about a 12-month plan? What if we were talking about a 100-year plan? Where do we want to be in 100 years? What do we want El Dorado County to be in 100 years? I've heard the word growth mentioned a number of times here. And growth is a good thing. If we didn't grow, then our children would always be children. And they wouldn't become adults. But when growth is given a value, an abstract value of being an abstract good, then cancer is good because it's all about growth. That's what cancer is. It's growth. Uncontrolled growth, unmitigated growth, unrestrained growth. What would El Dorado County be at 100 years if we assume every year for the next 100 years that we're going to grow? We're going to build more houses. We're going to build more malls. We're going to build more factories. We're going to build. Well, I guess that means that the agritourism viewpoint is kind of short-sighted because 100 years from now there won't be anything to tour to. There won't be towns. There'll be suburbs. Or cities, perhaps. A good question to ask is, when does a town, when does a community, when does a place become a suburb? When does it become a mall? When does it become something anonymous that could be picked up in El Dorado County and dropped in any other part of the state that's been destroyed? And I know all of us know places that we drive to, that we've been to, that we've seen, and we say, gosh, I'm sure glad I didn't live here. It must have been beautiful 50 years ago. Imagine what it looked like 100 years ago. I lived in San Francisco for a while, and I used to sit on the edge of the hills looking out over the bay and trying to imagine what it looked like before there was a bridge and before there were buildings and stuff. So I think you're on a really important moment here, because the decisions that will be made in this county over the next few years, and I suggest probably the next few months, are going to determine what El Dorado County will look like, not in 10 years, not in 20 years, but in 100 years. Because once the concrete's down, once the roads are built, once the suburbs are in, once the gated communities are built, they aren't going to be pulled up anytime soon. You don't see people ripping up a lot of concrete or asphalt, unless it's to build more of it. It's been suggested today that maybe there should be a committee or something of people. Maybe there should be citizen meetings. Like there was a packed meeting the other night about Highway 49. People in this county are very, very concerned about what's going to happen. And it's not like people are saying, let's shut the door, nobody else could come in, we're here, stay out. It's like saying, no, wait a minute, we're living here for a reason. My family, as I pointed out in a planning commission meeting the other night, my family moved here because it was a beautiful place to live. We could have moved to San Jose, we could have moved to wherever, but when I was a young child, my family moved to Diamond Springs because it was an incredibly beautiful place to live. And I suspect that's why all of you live here and why everybody in this room lives here, is because they were either raised here and they love it, or they've come here and they've learned to love it. I think it's possible to do this differently. It takes courage. It takes incredible vision which I think we can all learn, because I don't have the answers. I couldn't sit up there and make the decisions because I don't have all the answers either. But I think there's a way in which we can take a pause and not make the assumptions we're making today. If we assume that it just has to go one particular way, and that's the way it's going to be, there won't be any turning back. Diamond Springs right now has the highest density of gas stations, I suggest to you, probably in the state per capita. We've probably also got the highest density of convenience stores. I don't think that's what Diamond Springs wants, and I don't think it's what El Dorado County wants. Thank you.
Thank you, Tripp.